Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy, what is it, Thursday? I hope you are happy, at least peaceful, and we're going to go through everything and anything. So, good evening. I missed you yesterday. I was honestly, with all the news that I'm digesting, and I kind of have to, report on and decide what's worth it, what's not, what's real, what's fake. I was overwhelmed. And then I saw my internet connection go down, and I'm like, that's universe giving me a sign to focus on our new app, which is coming very soon. So, and I'm looking forward to it. Just to explain, our app was not going to be, like a social media thing where a whole bunch of like different people posting, but it's all about actual news. Everything I report on, everything you see me posting on social media with the hashtag actual news. So on our app, you're going to have one space where all of this is there. I'm going to have guests. I'm going to then later expand to adding more journalists that we all together will add. But first and foremost, we'll have our community with our town halls, with articles and instant news updates and newsletters and live streams. So you'll have one thing where you go to and get everything there. Okay, so in no way it's a replacement for Blue Sky or whatever the case may be. Okay, but I'm looking forward to having our space and our safe space, and where we are, we know that there are no bots. And for that reason, if you want to be part of the actual news community, just sign up for our newsletter. You don't have to be a paid subscriber. You just have to leave your email. And by the way, I'm sending you actual news every night anyway. So honest.substack.com. Also, if you're leaving X, and I see I'm losing hundreds of followers every 10 minutes, which is okay. Kind of weird to see because I was so hoping to grow, I think like a few months ago, but I totally get it because I see you then on Blue Sky, and I'm there with the same Honest Press with the same username. So go follow whoever deletes the profile in X or deactivates it. I see you popping up in Blue Sky and I follow you back. So go ahead and also get on the newsletter because that's where we get the invitations to everything. Okay. All right. I missed you today. I hope you are ready. It's not gonna be a short live stream. We're gonna talk about national, whatever that is. We're gonna talk about international politics. We're gonna then connect things together. We're gonna read between the lines. We're gonna see what's real. What is just clickbaity situations, right? For instance, all the nominations that first day today, I tuned in ABC News, which I thought, ABC News is not that wild. And all they talked about, literally all they talked about is this nominee going to be selected or not, or this or that? Congress is flipping back and forth. I'm like, that's like a shitty reality show. I wouldn't be even watching it if I were into reality shows. It's just shitty, and sorry, but it's quite boring. Because if those nominees were all a cast, this would be a pretty bad cast, even for like Desperate Housewives or whatever, Housewives of whatever, or whatever those shows are. I never watched it, but maybe Love is Blind. Maybe that could be a good thing. But like 90 Day Fiance, all of them are pretty boring cast because all of them are yes people. They will just bow down and do whatever Elon Musk says, and Trump thinks that he's saying it. So he's, Elon is the neck, Trump is the head. And it's just boring. Honestly, it's getting boring. But I want to see what the Congress will do. Are they going to grab themselves by the pair and disapprove those nominations? Are they going to vote to even approve them without the Congress approval? So we'll see what's going to be. And so when we have physically somebody nominated, then yeah, we're going to examine as to what damage they're going to do. We're going to talk about some nominations today, a little bit, but we're not diving into this because there's so much happening in the world that deserves your attention and that will give us peace, just seeing that the world is still turning and, we're not at the end yet. So let's not even get there mentally. Hey, guys. Hey, Jack. Hey. Hello. Hey, Brandon. Hey. Hey, Daniel, how long before your app may come available? So we're going to start rolling out to one of our insiders around November 22nd. It depends on Apple and Google Play, whatever it's called now, as soon as they approve it. And then we roll out fully from December 1st. My local news, that's all they talked about. Yeah, exactly, right? It's like all about the Congress shit show, reality show. Like, that's boring. It's getting boring. I watched The Apprentice in the first year, and once he saw one episode, he saw it all. Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's what I mean. It's interesting if you are a cult member and you're just there for the visuals and the messaging, and you constantly need that, you need to be fed this cult persona or cult message, so you stay a part of this cult, or you are there because it gets some emotions. Maybe your life is boring and this is the action you get just by watching it, but it's so repetitive and it's so predictable. Jesus, even Dancing with the Stars wouldn't take them. Exactly. And I judged it in another country. I hate reality TV when it becomes our reality. Exactly. Hey, Sierra. Hello. Yeah. Okay, so let's get to the actual news. President Biden, as you may have heard or read in your newsletter, he embarked on a 6-day tour to Latin America. And White House portrays it one way. There's other things that are happening. So we're going to see what actually is going to happen there or will not happen there. But first, before leaving, he announced new ways to tackle climate crisis as he began the tour. So let's look at his video. White House released it this morning as he left. Take a look.
This week I'm heading to Peru and Brazil to meet world leaders, and I'll be the first American president to visit the Amazon rainforest. We're going to discuss how we can resolve our toughest global challenges, including climate change, by working together. The United States has been leading that work. And today I want to announce 2 more investments that will lower the energy costs for hardworking families and help tackle the climate crisis. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is going to award $250 million in rural energy for the American Program grants to help over 1,000 farmers and rural small businesses install cost savings, clean energy, and energy efficient improvements all across 40 states. And the Department of Energy will award nearly $18 million to help communities nationwide to save money by improving energy efficiency and reducing dangerous climate pollution. This is a win-win. More jobs, more investment, cleaner air, and lower energy bills. Folks, there's nothing we can't do if we do it together. Let's do it, okay? God bless you all, and may God protect our troops.
I have a mixed feeling here. I like what he says. I like what he does. But on the other hand, we have the reality, right? It's like, let's water our plants. Our garden is so beautiful. Oh, look at this garden. Look at the bees. Bzz. Oh, wonderful. Oh, let's take a picture. And meanwhile, a tsunami is coming. And we're like taking pictures of bees and butterflies, and we're talking about watering flowers in the garden. And there's a tsunami, and we kind of already see it in the corner of your eye. And we're like, are we going to talk about it? If you watch the movie, Don't Look Up, how they had rallies where they were protesting against scientists. The movie, it's on Netflix. And there was like a comet, right? Pretty much rattling the earth and killing everybody. But scientists said it's flying our way. What can we do? And then, anyway, watch it. Elon Musk appears there. A persona like him who tries to monetize this comment and all that kind of stuff. But they had rallies where they encourage people to wave the banners and the flags and say, don't look up, because scientists are lying. And we all can predict. And if you watched, you know how it ends. But nice stuff. My question is, how long is it gonna last? Because that Doge, whatever department, whatever the cutting cost, I think that would be the first that they will do. But when it comes to this trip, here's Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor. Jake Sullivan, who described what the trip will be. It's an extensive trip. So let's listen to him. He shared that yesterday at the White House briefing. It's a 4-minute video. Let's see how we all suffer through it. Let's listen.
The president's trip here over the next several days. Tomorrow he travels to South America. His first stop will be Peru for the APEC summit, the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. And then he'll go on to Brazil for the first ever presidential trip to the Amazon, and then to the G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro. At APEC, the president will reinforce America's leading role in the Indo-Pacific. And over the last 4 years, he has markedly enhanced our strategic position in this vital region, from our treaty alliances to AUKUS to the Quad to the historic trilateral with Japan and Korea. And with respect to that trilateral, he will meet with President Yoon of South Korea and Prime Minister Ishiba of Japan to celebrate the historic cooperation between our three nations and discuss the importance of institutionalizing the progress we've made so that it carries forward through the transition. While in Lima, President Biden will also meet with President Xi Jinping of the People's Republic of China. This will be the third in-person meeting between the two leaders since President Biden came into office, and their final meeting as presidents. They previously met, as you know, in Bali in 2022 at the G20 summit, and at Woodside, California, near San Francisco in 2023 on the margins of the APEC summit, which was exactly 1 year and 1 day ago. And throughout his time in office, President Biden and his team have worked to effectively and responsibly manage the competition between the United States and the PRC. The president's approach on the PRC has prioritized investments in sources of American strength at home, including growing the middle class and ensuring that America maintains its industrial capacity and its innovation edge in fields such as semiconductors and artificial intelligence. He has strengthened our alliances around the world, and especially in the Indo-Pacific. He has boosted American deterrence, and he's ensured that America remains the partner of choice for countries both in the region and across the world. The president has also taken common sense measures to advance our national security and protect our most sensitive technologies, to prevent them from being exploited or used against us by the PRC, including through significant new export control measures. At the same time...
Okay, now in English, okay? The official statement is that they're meeting with Xi, which is Xi Jinping. It's kind of like a big deal, right? Because China is being very much discussed by Trump, very much discussed by Putin, and very much discussed here by Biden administration. Officially, the meeting will take place on Saturday at Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in Lima, Peru. This will be their third in-person meeting. You've heard that. Now, they say, well, it's last meeting. They're going to look back. When we asked Karine, she's like Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary of the White House, it's mostly we're looking back. We're looking back. Today, she did the gaggle on the Air Force One on their way to Peru and said we're mostly looking back. Okay. Now, I have a question. So here's a few things that did happen with China. I did cover it yesterday in the newsletter. I did cover it today in the newsletter. So first, U.S. intel agencies expose widespread Chinese cyber espionage campaign. U.S. intelligence agencies have reported a broad and significant cyber espionage effort by China, targeting commercial telecommunications infrastructure and compromising the private communications of individuals involved in government or political activities. The FBI and Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency, the CISA, revealed these findings in a statement yesterday. though they did not confirm if the hacks were linked to the recent reports of Chinese interference with US presidential campaigns. The Chinese government has yet to respond, but has previously denied US allegations of cyber espionage targeting Americans. And so let's hope this will be discussed. I know Jake Sullivan mentioned cybersecurity. Well, there are already violations of norms. So in other news, with China Xi, right? Xi Jinping. So today, everybody arrived in Peru. Why Biden was not meeting with Xi today in Peru? Because Xi is very busy, not with the summit, but with opening a mega port in Peru. Now, if you talk to insiders in European Union intelligence, they're telling that this mega port has also ability to have or to turn into a military base. And think about it. If we're talking about Peru, now they are on sort of our side here, very close. Latin America is not, very far. It's right here. Think about, U.S. and where that is. Now, Chinese President Xi Jinping is set to participate in a ceremony marking the opening of a deep water port in the Peruvian city of Chancay. The Chinese-backed port, a key component of China's Belt and Road Initiative, is designed to reduce shipping times between Asia and South America. Both China and Peru aim for the project to attract up to $3 billion in investment, further strengthening economic ties between two nations. And so if we think about securing the Indo-Pacific, that is a big deal. If China is investing in Latin America will have something to do in return. We saw it with Thailand, right? When in Indonesia, when they invested, let's talk Indonesia, for instance, when they invested 10 billion as recent as a few days ago, Indonesia joined BRICS. And then Indonesia signed the first neutrality in terms of the sea, that if China claims Taiwan theirs, they're neutral. It doesn't bother them. And second, they signed military cooperation with China, meaning if China needs soldiers, same as Russia needs soldiers now, North Korea responds, Iran is about to respond. Here, that's another union. So this summit here comes at a very interesting moment. And it's very interesting how the summit is literally aligned in Peru with everybody. So also, it was press pool reported today that President Biden landed there. He boarded together with his daughter Ashley and his granddaughter, and so then the Russian governmental plane was parked right next to Air Force One. So Russians are there and they're represented. I'm interested in what capacity or who that exactly is. Now, Palau president, I know tiny, we don't think about Palau much, but why does it matter? Their president accused China of violating maritime borders. This week, Surangel Whips Jr. was reelected as president of Palau. On Thursday, he stated that Chinese vessels have been entering their exclusive economic zone without invitation. He also pointed out that earlier this year, Chinese officials named 2 underwater mountains that belong to Palau. Notably, they are one of the few nations that maintains formal diplomatic recognition of Taiwan. So for this reason, what I covered last week, or was it? It was this week, right? Monday or something, or Tuesday, when we talked about that letter from Putler, Putler's right hand, who gave an interview to their agency TASS. It's the main Kremlin agency, and said that, Trump should not forget who put him into power and that he has to return the favors. And they claimed that he ran his campaign on a certain rhetoric. And if he doesn't pay the bills, so to speak, they can do whatever. the indication is that the conversation that happened between Trump and Putler did not assure Russians that Trump was going to do whatever they want him to do, specifically when it comes to China. Russia heavily relies on China, and Russia represents interest for China, because if Russia is now integrated into our government, and we see it, I mean, let's call a thing a thing, Russia will have a say and will have leverage on the United States. And so as long as they have that, China sees value in Putler specifically and will not swallow them, right? Because Russia is very weak. Their economy is really tumbling down. It was reported today as a 3-page report in Russian that they're literally running out of money. And even that war economy is not working. So they're relying on Russia very heavily. And so allegedly, again, I wasn't on the call, so I can tell you what I'm hearing, that, Trump, since he runs on the passing tariffs against China primarily, this is what Putler doesn't want to hear. And this is also what Musk doesn't really need. And so my guesstimation is that Musk is very much approved by Putler to be there, and we see it. And and if Trump doesn't do what folks say, then we will see more provocation. And I told you on Tuesday, something that might happen near Taiwan, something that might happen maybe in Latin America, close to us, that's their sign to show that, buddy, there are things we can do. Meanwhile, Russia plays, videos with naked Melania Trump, and has some other stuff calling Donald Trump Donnie and Pumpkinhead, and what is it called? I always forget this fruit. Mussolini, mango Mussolini. So they hear what we, have in terms of labels, and they just repeat it on state television. So it's there to push him to act a certain way. My fear is, again, this is my guesstimation or my estimation based on my experience and my work experience, is that if he were not to do whatever needed, there's always Amendment 25 and there's always JD Vance. That's why you don't really see JD Vance here. It's not profitable for him to say something. The less he says now, the more could be adjusted in his branding, because he's a branded guy, right? They want him to look sleek and smart. So he has to be away and not talk BS, which is everything, what he says. It's very awkward. And so, the point is to give Trump the stage, do his thing. And if he doesn't do a good thing, there is JD Vance who will not say no. Okay, this is just to keep an eye on. Now, next, President Biden travels to Brazil. And in Rio, they're having the group of 20 summit, so G20. What also is happening in Brazil, he's talking to Lula, President Lula, and it's described, per request from the White House. It's a very warm meeting. It's a friendly meeting, My question is, what is the B in BRICS? And B in BRICS stands for Brazil. So Lula is not lovey-dovey, and it's not really friendly. Again, if we were to read between the lines, I would say Biden's trip is a family trip. I understand it looks like a family trip with his daughter, granddaughters, whatnot, and you guys commented on it. But most importantly, I think it's to, yes, look back and discuss what this administration has achieved. Most importantly, what they have prevented, because the Taiwan and the conflict in China wasn't brewing just 2 months ago. It is what war to escalate right around Ukraine, right? And then they postponed their action to see how the West reacts to Ukraine. And then if they were to give up Ukraine, then they would be invading Taiwan right away. They see resistance, so they're conscious, right? Then Biden introduces Chips and Science Act. Then Taiwan becomes less of a leverage. So all of that did happen throughout the 4 years. Then Blinken and Austin and Biden were traveling across the Indo-Pacific, closing those partnerships, building the military base on islands in different countries, renewing their stockpiles. So all of that did happen within the 4 years. And so I think there will be a warning. I think there will be a sincere request to look back and see where we are and what is at play, because you can't rely on Trump. He will do whatever he wants to do, and then he will face consequences that people who he depends on will decide. Now, in Brazil, authorities are investigating two explosions outside the Supreme Court in Brasilia, their capital, that resulted in one fatality last night. The vice governor of the capital district stated that preliminary findings suggest the individual died from self-inflicted injuries after attempting to enter the court with explosives. So this court is near the G20 summit space. So for that, they're raising concerns about security in the lead up to the event. Okay, so any comments? Trump is loyal to Putin, but will hold his ends for the most lucrative contract he can put in place, and it's agreed. Exactly, yeah, and we'll discuss that about what was Musk doing. Hey Jay, what was Musk doing meeting with Iranians today? Like, what's that about? Wait, Russian TV is making fun of Fallon. Yes, first there was one video that I showed you with naked Melania and them laughing. Next was that article, with the Putler's right hand, former head of FSB, right, their intelligence agency, to say, don't forget who put you into power. It wasn't even straight talk. It was definitely not a diplomatic talk, but it was not even straight. It was gangster, like straight out gangster talk. And next was a video laughing at Trump, calling him a pumpkin, ginger, mango Mussolini, all that kind of stuff. So, hey, Bonnie, hello. Somebody said the reason why JD Vance is in Michigan, because he's buying new car. Oh, God. Yeah, well, right. Oh, all right. Missing in action. He's buying new couches. Yeah. Well, I think he was like on a tour in Congress. Like, didn't you work there? We need a tour. Anyway, he was there with his family. So in other stuff, a statement from President Biden on a record 20 million new business applications. He says that I've always said that every new small business is an act of hope. As of today, Americans have filed more than 20 million new businesses applications since Vice President Harris and I took office. That's 20 million acts of hope by the American people. Vice President Harris issued a statement alike, and that was it. What they interestingly, and let's remember those statistics before everything plummets very soon. They say Black and Hispanic entrepreneurs have been leaders of this small business boom, with Black business ownership being twice as high as last year, and Hispanic business ownership is up by 40% since before the pandemic. The share of women business owners is also on the rise. And so they claim that small businesses are, or rightfully state that that's the part of the American dream. Also, what was released yesterday was a statement by National Economic Advisor Brainard on the October 2024 Consumer Price Index. So the CPI inflation went up. I mean, a month before was 2.1, now it's 2.6. This is for October, but it's still close to its pre-pandemic rate. This has been a hard-fought recovery, but we are making progress for working families, with gas prices down to $3.08 per gallon, and insulin prices down from as much as $400 to $35 per month. For seniors, and household incomes up by $4,000 more than prices during this administration. And now, if we were to compare to the incoming administration, the tariffs, right? And that's what I covered in the newsletter. Currently, the tariffs, if you were to compare what tariffs do generate for United States, comparing it to federal income tax that Trump tries to abolish, which is a benefit to his rich friends. Tariffs that we get, well, we meaning United States gets in per year, are only 2.2% from the federal income tax. So if you were to cover the loss of federal income tax was tariffs. Ultimately, and we know it, if you impose tariffs, prices will go up for us, and so it will be for us on consumers. And our price will go by at least 69.9%. And it's really interesting how people who voted for him, they don't understand how much we actually import. That salad that you like, that mango, that banana, do you think it's growing in New York City and Washington, D.C., and even your Florida? Many things are important from Mexico, right? Because we think, oh, it's maybe Timo or Amazon. No, think about your food too. Also, people who work on the fields and are agreeing to work to not just minimum wage, but very little money because maybe they're undocumented and they need to feed their families. If these people were to be deported and you were to hire somebody and pay them $15 an hour, this will have tremendous effect. Interestingly, in Miami area, if you look at Miami Beach, North Miami Beach, right, and above that is Sunny Isles. And Sunny Isles is full with Russians. And those Russians, if you look at the map, Miami voted blue, Sunny Isles, red. And all of them escaped the regime in Russia, USSR, they escaped it, came here, but somehow in the head, they're looking for that Tsar. So they voted red. And now, a bunch of them are calling their like the city council, and they're worried because their nannies and cleaners will be deported because they're here illegally, and that's why they can pay them a little, and these people work hard. It's just like, Bonnie says coffee. Exactly. We don't grow coffee beans in the US. We don't even pack the coffee in the US. Absolutely. As far as Ginger is concerned, I've dated redhead ladies. What you said, compliment. No, Daniel, somebody made a tweet today about JD Vance, how he's been missing since the election, and comment on it said he was buying. Oh, that's okay. I read it. Exactly. But so my point is, F around, find out. And we're in the finding out space and phase. And it's sooner, right? We thought sooner than later, and it's actually sooner than later. And it's interesting how it coincides with, holidays, and it's such a drastic change from where we were and where we are right now. But I play you a video with Biden, and then you hear Trump. It's just like, anyway. So we will survive. Now, good news is, remember Polymarket. Polymarket was heavily advocating for Trump in the election season, and despite any polls that showed actually 50-50 race. And so federal law enforcement agents conducted a raid on the Soho apartment here in Manhattan of Polymarket CEO Shane Kaplan early Wednesday morning, seizing his phone and electronic devices. The company confirmed that raid, which follows heightened scrutiny surrounding Polymarket, an offshore crypto-based betting platform that allows users to wager on events like elections. The raid comes shortly after the recent U.S. presidential election, during which Polymarket's betting odds notably diverted from public opinion polls. For weeks, the platform had shown markedly higher odds for Donald Trump's victory compared to those of VP Harris, despite polling data indicating otherwise. The investigation reportedly stems from concerns over Polymarket's practices and its offshore operations, with federal authorities scrutinizing the legality of its gambling activities and the potential influence on public perception. So, we'll see. And they will find out all about the investors. And their main investor is Peter Thiel, main investor that is behind Trump too. So now our news, we continue with the U.S. news. See how many news we have, okay? It's not just Gates or Gates, whatever his name is, and his eyebrows. Yes or no for Attorney General. Like, don't go down to that level. It's a bad reality show. Bad, boring. Okay, so U.S. is to impose fines on oil and gas firms for methane leaks. the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, has announced the introduction of the first ever national fee aimed at curbing emissions. The new policy will have fines on oil and gas companies for releasing methane above a certain threshold and offer incentives to repair leaky pipelines. And this announcement was in Baku. Sorry for mispronouncing stuff. I'll Google it later. If you know many languages, you don't know all of them perfect. So anyway, and I don't talk about that. I know how it smells, so I don't talk about it every day. Anyway, my point is, this was in Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is a country, as you know, and Baku hosted this COP summit, right? The COP summit. It's the UN climate summit, where Taliban was represented, where Taliban was speaking out and holding speeches. I mean, Taliban, not even recognized as a state by UN and recognized as an international terrorist organization by United States and many other normal countries. And so there, as CEO of ExxonMobil, CEO Darren Woods urged Trump administration not to dismantle regulations or withdraw from Paris Climate Agreement, warning that such actions could undermine efforts to combat climate change and create policy uncertainty. So if gas and oil producers and companies are urging you to care about environment, you better care for the environment. Now, this is interesting. So a few months back, I was on a call. It was very early morning. It's national security. And they talk about icebreakers. And it was so early that I was thinking, are they talking about the dating thing, like icebreaker? And I realized, no, they're talking about military, certainly. So the deal with icebreakers is, and it's interesting, when they thought, meaning they is NATO, United States, specifically, Canada, United States, and Finland. If we think about who could use icebreakers if we were at war with Russia or with China, those are exact countries, right? Geographically speaking. Why China? About a year ago, China declared itself as a near Arctic state, which geographically makes no sense. But what they did is they claimed rights to the North Sea, and they want to monitor it. And so they have a bunch of ships, and they're spying pretty much. They're spying on our military base in Alaska. They're spying on Canada. They're intercepting signals and whatnot. So, and that was what was stunning in that meeting, early morning. They said that in order to sustain a war, we need about 75 icebreakers. Currently, United States has 7 that don't work. Canada has 3, and Finland has about 4 or 5, something like that. And so they said we have to be very, very fast, and we have to have those goddamn icebreakers, right? Because you have to break the ice so you can be present there. And this was stunning to hear the numbers. Meanwhile, Russia has around 30 to 40 functioning icebreakers, and they're constantly monitoring the area. So what they decided to do is to combine efforts, Canada, US, and Finland. For instance, US has the intelligence as to how to build them. Finland, let's say, has private companies. And so Canada maybe will invest. And so essentially, corporations will be building them, and nations will be buying them. So here's an update. National Security Advisor Sullivan issued a statement highlighting the progress of a partnership between the United States, Canada, and Finland announced in July to advance the production of polar icebreakers. This collaboration aims to bolster national security and ensure peaceful cooperation in the Arctic and polar regions. The partnership will facilitate the exchange of knowledge and resources, enhancing the capabilities of the shipbuilding industry while supporting international security and upholding global rules in these critical times. So if you read that statement, you're like, oh, okay. But actually, pretty goddamn scary. And how is that related to the fool down in Florida, Alfie raid? I think that FBI does look at the interference. For instance, AP today, and I have a readout soon when we talk about MAGA, they came out with a fact check that, for instance, everything we discussed that Starlink somehow affected the machines, that's not true. How do they know? I guess there was an investigation which they didn't go public about. So I guess things happen. Let's wait and see how we tie it all together. Never thought we needed laws against gambling, betting, and yeah, on election. Exactly. And offshore companies. Offshore companies use Bitcoin to bet on our elections. That's like, yeah, Jesus, if the oil and gas companies are telling people about the environment. Exactly, right. Right. Bonnie says DT will hold grudge against ExxonMobil. Exactly. Yep. Russia activity in Arctic waters is concerning in Arctic. Yeah, it is concerning. And when you hear the numbers, it's like, oh, we're so behind by this far. God damn it! How did we come here? They're like, well, we have icebreakers from Second World War, but we never activated them, so maybe we should. Okay. All right. So let's talk about MAGA. CNN had let's talk about MAGA. Here's CNN. But I have a point. CNN started with around 6 million viewers and now is at around 600,000 viewers. It is being talked about in Silicon Valley that CNN is for sale. If Peter Thiel were to buy it, then that's like a Twitter shitter, but on television. So let's see how this works. But this is an interesting video. Let's look at it as a joke, okay? Look at it as a joke. Because CNN says they're like issuing a lot of surveys and they're asking, why are we losing followers? Why are we losing watchers and viewers? Why? Maybe this why. Take a look at this video.
All right. If Marco Rubio does in fact become Secretary of State, we're going to need a new senator from the state of Florida, and we need someone with Rubio's national security credentials. Now, there's one Floridian who can do it. He stood up to the Russians and the Iranians in the 1980s when he defeated the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov, two of America's most lethal foes. He is a real American. He fights for the rights of every man. He knows that courage is the thing that keeps us free. Ladies and gentlemen, I announce Ron DeSantis, get on it. Hulk Hogan for U.S. Senate. And what you going to do, Chuck Schumer, when Hulkamania runs wild on you, brother?
If that was a joke, it's flat. If that wasn't a joke, it's flat. All of it is flat. Anyway, I was talking about AP fact checking. So here's what they did. Fact focus. Election officials knocked down Starlink vote rigging conspiracy theories. So they say claim billionaire Musk used his internet provider Starlink to steal the 2024 election. The facts. These claims are unfounded. Election officials, including from multiple swing states, told the AP that their voting equipment doesn't use Starlink and is not even connected to the internet. States have additional security measures to ensure that the count is accurate. According to experts, election officials and security agencies have reported no significant issues with the 2024 race. It's not possible that Starlink was used to hack or change the outcome of the U.S. presidential election, David Becker, founder and executive director of the Center for Election Innovation and Research, wrote in the email. This quite simply did not happen and could not happen thanks to security measures we have in place, and these conspiracy theories echo other disinformation we've heard over the past several years. Check who does that guy voted for? Okay, that's my first question. Okay, I mean, why are we getting fact checks from AP? Can our administration, I'm not saying it's going to reverse the outcome. Can our administration have investigation? Can our president, whom we love and adore, come out and say, we are investigating it? Hold on, right? Why? Why is it important? Because if we were to have elections, God willing, in 4 years, if Russians learn to do something, they're not going to unlearn to do something. And my question is, what did happen to those fake bomb threats? Okay? What had happened to that?
Put together that there were some 60 bomb threats Not credible bomb threats, but bomb threats nonetheless that were called in to polling sites across Georgia. Is that right?
Yeah. 60 bomb threats, many of them attributed, we believe, to Russian sources. None of them turned out to be anything, but it did gum up the works here a little bit.
And I hear you, Ruby. Hello. Ruby says, that's what makes it stranger for no government response. And I know people are saying, well, because they're so quiet, it means something is brewing. I will stick to the facts. I don't see anything brewing, but if there is something brewing, I will report it to you as soon as I know and I have verified information. I have my hopes, I have my dreams, but I'm just staying as is. AP News kept calling election races too damn early while counts are still happening. Exactly. So everybody needs a headline, Jack. Everybody needs a headline. It's not the voting machines. It's the tabulations uploaded after counting. This is via internet. Thank you, Bonnie. And that's why we need people like Bonnie, who does so much for election integrity and calling people and figuring out what's actually true. But how many are Bonnie? Maybe 1% of people. Others will, look at TikTok. I'm still trying to figure out. I'm recording those little clips with, hello, welcome to Actual News, and I say something in 60 seconds. But people are getting their news from TikTok. How does this work? So it is sort of a random person tells you, hey, did you know? And they are full of emotions, and they're telling you something, which is their opinion, applied, like they saw some, let's say, even if they saw a fact, there is no training to fact check it or to see what's true, what's not. And then there is no training as to delivery, because everything ends up being very emotional, very provocative. And if you see somebody crying or screaming, you have equal reaction, because that's how we're trained, right? That's how humans are. You see somebody on the street crying, you're like, oh, what happened? And so that's the content I'm seeing when I'm looking at the news content on TikTok, and it has nothing to do with any factual information. So it's very interesting, dangerous too. Bonnie says Pennsylvania is still in the middle of mandated recount for Casey. For instance, that. Yeah. Brandon says, I think probably why Biden or Harris hasn't come out yet to say they're investigating it. It's because MAGA will lose. That's a good dream. Again, if this is true, I'm all for it. I just don't see anything happening. And I haven't seen through the 4 years anything happening for Donald Trump against him. A lot of things for him, but not many against him. So for this reason, let's hope. Heading speculation, but strange, maybe clues are there. Russia publishing Melania photos. Blatant warning. Melania announces she may be Trump sold the presidency of his own pardon. And isn't actually going to serve. That's my fear was JD Vance, because Trump is, you know how FSB agents, and if you want, I can interview an agent who lives in Washington, D.C. He has his channel on YouTube, is very, very popular, Yuri Shvets, and he speaks in Russian there, but he speaks perfect English. So if you want, I can interview him. He was one of the people who was in the US on the mission to convert Trump and handle him in the 80s. And they said he's very easy to manipulate. He loves praise and he loves money. And so for this reason, it's easier to manipulate him. JD Vance, who is polished and installed to completely do what told, it's a different story. Thanks for your kind word. I'm a nerd for deep dive and verifying sources. Thank you. And you know what? Nerds will save this world. I believe it. I'm in the age range for TikTok, I think, but I've never been on it or want to figure it out. Indeed. I mean, I'm looking at it and it's just so, first of all, if you change your IP address to China, and I'm a nerd, Bonnie, to your point, and I do that, you see completely different type of TikTok. It's very positive. It's very like useful tips and everything. If you switch to US, it's very political. Don't mention Trump, you're going to get banned. Don't mention MAGA, you're going to get banned only if it's positive. So KGB, exactly. Okay, let's continue. So Musk is has been appointed to this Department of disgrace. Anyway, what is it? What stands for governmental efficiency? So he wants to scrap $6 trillion. All of it makes no nonsense. So installing an extra department is somehow benefiting efficiency. Makes no sense. Anyway, but here's what he tweets about his approach. All actions of the Department of Government Efficiency will be posted online for maximum transparency. Anytime the public thinks we're cutting something important or not, cutting something wasteful, just let us know. We will also have a leaderboard for most insanely dumb spending of your tax dollars. This will be both extremely tragic and extremely entertaining. It is already extremely tragic, and it's not entertaining at all. Only if you're a pervert, you're being entertained by this. It's disgusting. What if we vote if we want to send you to Mars? I think we will donate. I'll donate to give the fella a one-way trip. There's no funding. Yeah, I mean, it's legit. It's not legitimate, yes, but it's outside the government, so he doesn't have to sell his companies. And second, if you're not officially appointed, there is also no consequences if you were to F up or do something. So it's very tricky. I don't see it as a good thing that it's not official. X is worse than TikTok. I just opened an account a few days ago, and the first thing popped up was Trump's speech. Yeah. X is just I'm getting so many messages of harassment, like go do things to yourself, like constantly, and it just went worse since the election. Congress holds purse strings. Yeah, Leon is treating this as a game and extremely. Yeah, exactly. It's like poking something. It's like, is it going to survive? Is it not going to survive? Oh, it didn't. So. Really interesting. Why is the media questioning why Trump's cabinet announcements are from the president-elect? He's not president yet. Why? Because they need only 50% approval if it happens before he's president, and 60% if it happens after. I think that's their main. But there's Ruby, to your point, why are we not questioning? I have so many questions. By the way, Trump media only corresponds with Fox News and CNN. So if I want to find something, I have to contact CNN or Fox News. They're not replying to any independent media. They don't talk to you at all. And before they reply to anything, they will open your Twitter and see what you tweet. And that's it. I think this will also affect the accreditations to the White House. So for this reason, okay. Deactivated X account today. See, I'm not going to do it just because I have still about 29,000. So I want people to get the news, and I constantly share them on Blue Sky and then with our own app. If it all works well and you guys like it, maybe I'll just stick to that app. So you just have one source for actual news. You want action, chit chat with a bunch of people, you go to Blue Sky or whatever, but for that, and for me too, but for that, like one spot where, I'm opening it and I'm getting what I don't have to fact check, that will be the spot. Okay. NBC reports about Elon Musk. So yesterday, of course, we saw it that Trump met with Biden. I showed you pictures in the newsletter. I don't want to show you videos, whatever. I can't digest it. Nobody can enjoy it. So we saw they met fine. So before that, they were in the Capitol and they were talking to Republicans and everybody. So here's a report from NBC about Elon Musk, because he was there. He's behaving as if he is a co-president and making sure everybody knows it, one of the people said. This is also, by the way, how he behaves in Mar-a-Lago. And quote, and he is taking lots of credit for the president's victory, bragging about America PAC and X to anyone who will listen. He's trying to make President Trump feel indebted to him, and the president is in debt to no one, this person added. Musk traveled to Mar-a-Lago to watch the election returns come in last week, and he has been there much of the past week. My question is, who runs these companies? if he's so genius. So he's been there the past week, two sources said. They said he's there at all hours, sitting with Trump and joining calls and meetings. Musk has been involved in sensitive conversations, even before his role in the administration was announced, including having briefly joined a phone call last week with President Zelensky. The second person said that Musk has an opinion on and about everything, and that he shares them so forcefully that he has begun to pester Trump insiders. Quote, he wants to be seen as having say in everything, even if he doesn't, the source says. Something is brewing. I mean, Trump doesn't like it. He feels like he's being manipulated and, co-president. Yeah, why does Leon keep making things up? Exactly, right. Let's think of who Musk will try to send to Mars. Yeah, maybe Trump. Two narcissists in the room will eventually turn into, yeah, exactly. They'll turn against each other. Of course. They just can't help it. Indeed. Yeah, absolutely. It's a matter of time. Now, Sandy Backham, whom we all love, she is, I think, 80 plus years young, and she's a reporter, video reporter, tremendous one. I hope she's on Blue Sky. I certainly follow her on X. She recorded a video of Steve Bannon arriving at Manhattan Criminal Court yesterday for his Build the Wall fraud pretrial hearing. And a New Yorker has a message for him, and he has a message for Nancy Pelosi and Tish James. And by the way, he can't be pardoned by Trump because of state, but today we saw that Trump put his guy to be the head of South District of New York. So it will be there. But take a look at the video. Very pathetic.
Mr. Bannon, you want to say anything?
Yeah, how did Nancy Pelosi and Tish James, thank you very much, appreciate you. How did they like getting their ass kicked on Tuesday? The American people rendered a verdict on their lawfare. You know what the American people told them to do? Go fuck themselves.
Charming. Why all of them are orange? Is there like a discount? Take one can of this self-tan. And listen, I know people who use self-tan daily. I've never seen that type of shade. What is that? Is that like, what's that, the turmeric? I mean, it's very healthy, but that doesn't look healthy. Anyway, today he was in court again, and then he threatened everybody. He said, well, those abusers will be the abused ones, and, claiming that Biden will be investigated and all that kind of stuff. So meanwhile, Lauren Boebert, the one with the jobs, if you know what I mean, she started her work, right? Congress is back. Investigating secret alien underwater bases in the Earth oceans. Take a look.
Counts of UAPs emerging from or submerging into our water, which could indicate a base or presence beneath the ocean's surface.
I don't know about a base, but as I mentioned, I had a different source entirely describe this pretty extraordinary footage that exists of orbs, of an orb coming out of the ocean and being met by another orb.
Some would say that there's multiple hotspots where we see frequent activity. So in your investigations, have you come across any data or visual evidence like sonar readings or underwater footage of these UAPs?
I have not beyond what's in the report.
I wouldn't be surprised if she would be appointed to head NASA. Okay. So Congressman Daniel Goldman from New York was on Brian Tyler's podcast. And that's all I want to say about nominees altogether. He pretty much described it, what's going on. So it's 39 seconds, 1 minute, 41 seconds. But he did a very good job. Take a listen.
I like to say that nothing surprises me about Donald Trump after I've spent 5 years essentially immersed in standing up to him. But this one really stretches the limits of imagination. Matt Gaetz is currently under an ethics investigation in the Congress that was started after a serious criminal investigation of him for sleeping with underage women and traveling out of state and out of the country with them, among perhaps other things. And so the idea that you would put somebody who clearly has such a vendetta against the Department of Justice in control of the Department of Justice, someone who is so unserious, someone who is so unqualified, is scary. But Matt Gaetz is not the only one, Brian. I mean, you have Tulsi Gabbard now, who was nominated to oversee the entire intelligence community. And there are many, many people who believe that Tulsi Gabbard is either a witting or unwitting agent of Vladimir Putin. And now she's overseeing our intelligence community. It is absurd. And you have Pete Hegseth, who's a Fox News host, an able service member in Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm not trying to take anything away from his service, but certainly unqualified to be the Secretary of Defense. And these are Donald Trump loyalists through and through, and that's what he wants.
Speaking of Trump's visionary potential, God forbid, Secretary of Defense, he was in National Guard, and he was let go because of his swastika tattoo, or something like a swastika together with a neo-Nazi thing. It's like a white supremacy / swastika. I'm not an expert in it. Looks wild. It's on his bosoms. He's very famous for selling stuff online. I want to show you a 38-second video. Watch it and think about it. That could be the next Secretary of Defense. Take a look.
A well-groomed militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms while smelling great shall not be infringed. I don't mind those tweaks. You see, One Man Army loves the country and makes damn good soap. I've used them all, and I love these new brands, like Gunsmoke, smells like American firepower, or Gurkha, refined bourbon and tobacco leaf, or how about Patriot and the Pine Tar Bar? There's more of them, too. You can get them in a variety pack. Each of them shaped like a grenade, soap on a rope. The well-groomed militia. This 4th of July, join it at grenadesoap.com.
A well-groomed militia, soap on a rope. Why I'm sharing this, because folks at the military have concerns, and they voiced them, and I'm going to read them out. First, though, Politico shared that Michael Anton and Sebastian Gorka are in the running to be President-elect Trump's deputy national security advisor. Gorka, a Steve Bannon ally who was also named deputy assistant to Trump in early 2017, has called violence a fundamental part of Islam and once worked as an advisor to Viktor Orban. He declined to comment, but encouraged this reporter to take a long jump off a short pier. Now, Musk met with Iranian ambassador to UN today. New York Times reported it. The tech billionaire, a top advisor to Trump, was reported to have discussed ways to diffuse tensions. But here's the detail. The two Iranian officials said that the meeting with Mr. Musk provided a workaround for Iran, allowing it to avoid sitting directly with an American official. It's literally the Logan Act. But for them, it's like, oh, we didn't officially meet with America. We met with Musk. Musk is just a citizen. One Iranian foreign ministry official said that Ambassador Iravani told Mr. Musk during the meeting that he should obtain sanctions exemptions from the Treasury and bring in return some of his businesses to Tehran. I'll let you figure it out yourself. Now, that is, I told you about the New York court when I mentioned the Bannon case. So Trump wants to appoint Jay Clayton for the New York, for the Southern District of New York. Now, Clayton is has absolutely no criminal law experience. he is known for high-profile financial crime prosecutions, but for this specific role, there is no experience, no knowledge, which is sort of the common denominator for all those nominees. Maybe they had like names in a hat and they just pulled it up, Attorney General. I don't know. Anyway, I know the story with Gatz and why, there was a report to be released on Friday by the ethics committee against him. He called Trump on the plane. Trump was flying to DC to meet with Biden and Congress and all, with Musk together. And after that call, Trump hung up and tweeted that Gaetz is his appointee, right? Meanwhile, his chief of staff was on the same plane and had absolutely no idea. Neither Mike Johnson had an idea that this guy is going to resign, right? So in order not to lose the seat, they did all that. It's very interesting, again, to quote the New York congressman, that somebody who has been prosecuted or investigated by this department will be headlining it. I have difficulty imagining him passing through the votes. If it will, then we are living in a fantasy where everybody bans, and it's very bandy. So anyway, so why I was showing you the soap on the rope, master. U.S. military officers concerned about proposed warrior board and political loyalty test. So this thing is proposed and heavily promoted by the soap on the rope salesman. If you look at his social media, that's all about that. He calls our military woke. Specifically, he refers to, and what is woke, right? For him, woke means those who are in favor of immunization or any type of injections or, flu shots or whatever. So that in his eyes is woke. Also, he has called already to prohibit women from serving in the military, claiming that only males with testosterone can win wars. So senior U.S. military officers are concerned about a proposed review process that may assess generals' loyalty to Trump. Under consideration by Trump's transition team, the process would establish a warrior board to evaluate senior officers' leadership and determine their retention, potentially prioritizing political loyalty over military merit. This board, appointed by the White House, is seen by some as a way to target woke generals supportive of diversity and vaccination initiatives, raising fears of increased politicization within the Army. Officers worry that the process, resembling General George C. Marshall's 1940 plucking board, could shift focus from leadership quality to political alignment. Concerns also include the impact of diversity hiring, with leaders potentially hesitant to recruit minority or LGBTQ staff. Republican criticism of woke military policies has already stalled some promotions, such as that of Colonel Ben Johnson, blocking over his statements on racial issues. So, big issue. Then I have a full article based on 3 interviews with military personnel, because they are having an issue as to Trump states or communicated to them that he will be giving orders for military through tweeting. And so they're discussing how legal that is. They faced such situation in 2020 when he tweeted about targeting Iranian cultural sites, a directive the Pentagon at that time refused, because if you give such directive, you have to literally provide details. And so they refused it. But now Trump's transition team says that tweeting will be that type of communication, and they do not agree. My question is, F around, find out. If you start effing around with people's retirement money, if those are 2, 3, 4-star generals, they are have accomplishments, and they are accounting for certain safety, right? Financial safety. So, I mean, they can unite and go against you, and that's the last thing you would want. So, soap salesman or not. check your comments. So that apparently GOP Dems won half votes. Okay, you guys are talking about. Okay, so in contrast, our DOJ, meaning the current one, awards $15 million for de-escalation and crisis response training to law enforcement. And this is like, it's a day and night situation here. So the Department of Justice's COPS office has allocated over $15 million in grants to 42 law enforcement agencies across 23 states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. The funds are aimed to enhancing training for officers, civilian staff, and mental health professionals in de-escalation tactics, crisis response, and safe interactions with individuals facing mental health crisis, disabilities, or suicidal behaviors. The program focuses on reducing the use of force, improving crisis intervention team operations, and connecting individuals to community-based services. So again, this is being done now. Fingers crossed this stays, because we saw everything, when it came to so many cases where people were assaulted and murdered when they just needed help. So good training. Now, in anti-MAGA news, The Onion, as you know, The Onion is the parody or the sarcastic site, acquired InfoWars from Alex Jones. He bankrupted it because of his court case. He had to sell it to give the money to the victims, right? Of whom he lied that they pretended to be victims. So anyway, The Onion plans to transform InfoWars into a parody of its former self, satirizing the so it's about satire, and they want to pretty much laugh at Alex Jones and have weird internet personalities known for promoting conspiracy theories. So this is how Alex Jones announced the news to his social media following. Take a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 7:50 right now. I'm about to upload this to X. I just got word 15 minutes ago that my lawyers and folks met with the U.S. trustee over our bankruptcy this morning, and they said they're shutting us down even without a court order. This morning, the Connecticut Democrats with the Onion newspaper bought us. They asked, did they outbid? They said, well, it was competitive. So they changed all the bidding rules, made it secret 2 days ago. I had a bad feeling. I told you that. And just like they tried to shut us down back in late May without a court order, they're supposed to have a court order. There's going to be injunctions filed. I'm about to go live out of Harrison's American Journal studio. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to be.
It's all with their voices, right? They all have this weird voices. Now Trump appointed his former lawyer. I remember covering that hearing about his immunity case, or presidential immunity, the Supreme Court, and I'm listening to it, and it was just audio, and that lawyer, Todd, what's his face? So Trump wants to make him the deputy attorney general. So paying, I guess that's what I think. He didn't pay those people. So appointing them is sort of like a payment. And then it goes through good. It doesn't go through, well, I did it for you. Why do you expect payment? I wanted you to be this. That's what I think it all kind of comes down to. Jones' followers seem to believe that the judgment's not satisfied against him and that he will start a new show. And that's false. Yeah, Lisa explained it to everybody that every penny he makes will go to the victims. Kakistocracy. I saw this today. What is that word? Where does it come from? That's what we got here. It means government by the least suitable or competent citizens of a state. Thank you. You explained my question. It's a miracle. I ask and I shall receive. Julius Kim summarized it pretty well about the nominations. Putin has just named Donald Trump ambassador to the United States. And this is funny, and this is sad, and this is true in such a weird way that hits it. Now, I want us to listen carefully to this video. It's 2 minutes, 20 seconds. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, spoke to a reporter. She asked to share it with everybody because she talks about folks who potentially would be facing deportation. Let's listen to it. If you have a friend or a family member, or perhaps it affects you in some certain way, please listen to it, and please listen to it carefully. Okay, let's go.
What should migrant communities be doing to prepare for what's coming? I know.
It's hard. We are in a very hard moment. It's very sad too, because I think in the information environment that we're in, there's a lot of people, first of all, that like genuinely don't believe that this is, I think the Trump campaign ran on this narrative that they were talking about somebody else, right? That they were just talking about quote unquote criminals that are being deported. What a lot of people I don't think has sunk in is that the administration believes that anybody who is here undocumented has committed a criminal act. And so they are talking about everybody, naming Stephen Miller as his deputy policy chief. These are very real signals that they fully intend on pursuing as broad and aggressive a deportation campaign as possible. I think that there are certainly immediate steps that people at home can be taking. It's really important that the people around you and that you have a team, whether it's someone at your church, whether it's a family person, that they have your information, that there is a plan in case you are apprehended. I come from a district that was very heavily affected by ICE raids during the last Trump presidency. It is important to have, even just from a triage, like first aid situation, if your child is documented, if your child is a citizen, having a plan for your child, having your documents and everything, what you do have prepared and ready. And also, if you have a member of Congress, like myself or any other member of Congress, especially one that is known for championing immigrants' rights, if you're represented by a member like that, open a case with them and make sure that they, I am able to open cases for my constituents. And sometimes you need to sign a pre-release form so that a member of Congress can act on your family's behalf. And so sometimes I will advise my constituents to open a case with me so that we are authorized to do whatever we can.
Yeah. And to your point that I think Ruby said it right, that she's very much on point. That's where the money is. Exactly. Yeah. And of course, incarcerating people and then making them work, right? Those those are in motion too. Hope AOC has this video on her social media. She doesn't, but I'll share it. I'll share it. Okay. Now more international news. We're going to get it fast through. Okay. So Ukraine could create a simple nuclear bomb within a month if Trump holds aid. The Times reports, citing Ukraine's Ministry of Defense, the country could quickly build a basic device using plutonium based on technologies similar to the Fat Man bomb dropped on Nagasaki in 1945. Ukraine would rely on plutonium extracted from spent fuel rods taken from its nuclear reactors. The amount of reactor-grade plutonium available to Ukraine is estimated at 7 tons. This is far more than needed for a substantial nuclear arsenal, as only a fraction of this material is sufficient for hundreds of warheads with yields of several kilotons. According to Western experts, Ukraine would need less than a year to develop its own ballistic missiles with a range of up to 1,000 kilometers. So good news, bad news. If conflict is frozen, Ukraine will stop getting aid. I covered it extensively on Tuesday. Please watch that live stream. Now, when it comes to Russia, now this is a moment of laughing here. Siberian politician Zakhar Zhuyevsky enlisted with Russian army and plans to go fight against Ukraine. Do you want to see that goddamn soldier? That ripped soldier who wants to fight Ukraine. He's coming all the way from Siberia. It's him. No hate. Siberian politician. He wants to fight for his land. Also, check out his red tie and all that kind of stuff. Must be the trend. Now, Moscow will regard the permission for Kiev to strike deep inside Russian Federation as the entry of NATO countries. into direct armed conflict. This was stated by Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Zakharova. She said the response will be imminent and devastating to the West. Okay. Now, Russian propagandists, which I told you before, are mocking not only Donald Trump's wife, Melania, but also the future US president, calling him Ginger and Donya. Another, well, I save you the video, but Mosfilm, it's a main film studio in Russia, obviously state controlled. Obviously, all the movies were like pro-Soviet Union, and now all the movies are like, let's miss Soviet Union. How great that was. So it's very propaganda. Now, they boasted to Putin that they handed over tanks and armored vehicles produced in 1950s, stored in the studio's warehouse for the special operation. So this guy was literally sitting in front of Putin and saying, we give you all the tanks we had in our film studio, so you win the special operation. And then they also donated 8 million rubles, including 6 million for the direct needs of this special operation. By the way, in 2023, they handed over the armed forces 28 T-55 tanks, 8 PT-76 tanks, 6 APCs, and 8 tractor units, which they had stored in the military technical base, Mosfilm director told Putin. And Putin said, we thank Mosfilm. They literally take tanks from museums and send them to war. That's why when I was at the Met Museum, my dad and I were started laughing. We posted, you know, like at the Met Museum, you have those, like the equipment or body like armor that was worn as like 1600, 1700, whatever. And it has like body armor, and it's like a body armor for horses. And I said, that will be the next Lend-Lease to China, to Russia, right? They'll start getting stuff out of museums. Very sad, very disgusting too. So Poland, Polish President Andrzej Duda refused to participate in a collective photo session at the COP29 climate summit, where Taliban was and all that kind of stuff, because of the presence of Belarusian dictator Alexander Lukashenko. Here's a video. Take a look.
Sorry. Please.
That is so funny. Sounds like Russian movie folks are setting new bar for Fox and CNN to be supportive. Yeah, imagine like Hollywood. You start like sending stuff to them. They won't find parts to fix the tank. Exactly, the film studio props. Yeah, but they have like actual tanks as props, Jay, to your point. So it's not made of like plastic, it's actual tanks. Also, a bunch of cities in Russia, Ukraine too, had like a tank standing. It's like, welcome to the city. You know, like you drive on Autobahn or here, Speedway, whatever, highway, and there's like a thing, like we have usually a shield here and it says like, welcome to state of whatever, or city. There it's like a tank and it says, welcome to the hero city of whatever. So they take all those tanks and send them to the war. They're too old. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Okay, so NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte met with Polish President Andrzej Duda and Prime Minister Tusk in Warsaw on Wednesday, 13th November. And Rutte praised Poland's role as key security provider on NATO's eastern flank, highlighting its leadership in defense spending among allies. Now, Secretary of State Blinken is in Brussels. It's his emergency trip, and it's marked that way, but not communicated. It was really scheduled overnight, and there he's meeting with anybody and everybody. So with the Ukrainian Secretary of Defense, our defense minister, with literally UK counterparts, French counterparts, Balkan states, just talking about Ukraine, urging them to support Ukraine and that Ukraine cannot lose. So in short. But the full readout is in your email, and it's written like a human. Okay, so what I want to focus on, because this reveals so many moments. Today, Secretary General Rutte, NATO, traveled to Latvia. And so the NATO met with President of Latvia, Edgars Rinkēvičs, and the Prime Minister, Ms. Evika Silina. On the same day, Rutte also visited Exercise Resolute Warrior, the first full-scale exercise of NATO multinational brigade in Latvia. So after that exercise, they had a press briefing. And I want to show you 4 videos, 3 short, 1 longer, which I will stop and discuss because it really reveals the details. So first video is where Latvian president talks about the exercise. Now think about it. No, just listen to it first. Take a look.
We also discussed practical steps to reinforce the NATO military presence here. Anti-air systems, we have to learn from the incidents that we've seen in the past, such as the Russian drone that was found in Latvian territory. We have to do everything to ensure that the NATO presence is here, and NATO allies have to do ever more to reinforce not only their military capacity, but also mobilize the military industry as such. And obviously we are speaking about NATO policy in future, NATO in future, considering the outcome of the US elections. I think we are both of the same opinion that our main issue at hand right now is rather than the internal political processes of NATO member states, but rather how to reinforce NATO as such, reinforce our military industry, and only then will we have a strong transatlantic relationship. And I believe that we have no doubt about the future of NATO, which I'm sure Mr. Rutte will confirm. And lastly, of course, Ukraine. We see what's going on in Ukraine. I informed Secretary General that Latvia will continue to provide support to Latvia in the form of 0.25% of GDP from our annual budget. This has already been included in our budget for 2025 and 26. It's clear that we need NATO support as well. It is important that we have to provide to Ukraine everything it needs right now, and Ukraine has the right to use everything they obtain to use on the battlefield without any restrictions. So it was.
So then Mark Rutte had a speech. This is how he started. Listen to it and see whether you hear United States in it.
Defend Latvia and our alliance. Our collective strength transcends borders and crosses oceans. There are boots on the ground from North America, with Canada leading this NATO multinational brigade. And as we know, more than 12 nations from across Europe are by their side. From the high north to the Western Balkans, from the North Atlantic coast to the Baltic Sea. Europe and North America together. All for one and one for all.
So then he was directly asked, and Jack, I think I saw your question, is Trump going to take us out? That's the longer video that I have that I want to stop and stop and stare or explain. Now, this here is the answer to the question how Rutte imagines working with Trump. Take a look.
I was Donald Trump for 4 years in my previous role as Prime Minister of the Netherlands, and I had a very good working relationship with him. He will do everything needed to defend the United States, and he is well aware that the membership of NATO is part of the defense of the US. Look what is happening at the moment. Ukraine, North Korean soldiers, now being active in Russia and helping Russia with the war effort against Ukraine. Russia is paying for this. For example, by missile technology, which is now being delivered to North Korea. This is a direct threat, not only to Europe, but also to Japan, South Korea, and the US mainland. So we are connected in this. The Indo-Pacific and the Euro-Atlantic, we are connected. It is China through sanctions circumvention, through dual-use goods they deliver into Russia, which is helping Russia with the war effort. It is Iran with drones delivery. other technologies, Russia paying for that, and therefore making it possible for Iran to continue its very negative influence on the Middle East and even beyond. So Russia, China, North Korea, Iran working together, the US understands this, that NATO is there not only to defend Europe and the US, but also to work together to make sure that the Indo-Pacific and the transatlantic stay safe. And I look for...
The problem with Rutte is that he is thinking from common sense perspective. It's like, of course it's this, of course it's that, of course it's this. Now, if he were to dive, I know they're mentioning we're not diving into process inside any member, meaning US. But if he were to dive and really see whom Trump nominates, he maybe would meet Trump on a different level. Because I agree with AOC. You see exactly what they're planning to do. And what they wrote in Project 2025 is pretty much being executed paragraph by paragraph. So, I mean, kudos to him to think rationally, but this is not how Trump thinks. Definitely not. Then also the Russia's impact, anti-pro-China. So I have doubts, to say the least. So next, while I'm pulling up that longer video that I want to show you, next, Rutte and the Latvia's president were asked about two things. And this is the question one of you asked, I think Jack asked. Will Trump leave NATO? And second, since we have this leaked information about Trump's idea how to freeze, right? He says solve, but whatever. Essentially, it's how to capitulate Ukraine, but how to solve the Ukrainian issue, as he calls it, or as this new soap salesman calls it, Russia just went in to grab what belongs to them initially. Anyway, Trump mentioned that one of the parts of the agreement will be for Ukraine not to join NATO for over 20 years. So, will Ukraine join? But the first question is, will NATO be without the US? Let's take a look at this video. I think that's this one. Take a look.
The United States is an integral part of NATO. They have founded the alliance. They are not into NATO because of some historical reason that they didn't want to repeat a mistake after the First World War, not to repeat that mistake after the Second World War. They know that this is an integral part of their defense, our collective.
Pause here. We know, Mark, we know Trump is not us people. It's not really we the people. It's he, me, the person. It's like the Napoleon, right? Der Staat bin ich. He would say, the state is me. That's Trump.
Collective defense. And sometimes we talk about frontline states. Let me make absolutely clear. The Netherlands and France and the United Kingdom are frontline states. We are there together with the Baltics, Poland, all the other member states of NATO. We are all frontline states. There is not a frontline state which is closer to Russia or farther away from Russia. And we need the US, and the US needs us. We need each other to work on this. It was Trump who, from 2016 onwards, was pushing us on this part of NATO to spend more on defense. Look what's happening on Latvia.
Yeah, here's a pause here. With all due respect, Trump was not pushing you to spend more so that the alliance could be stronger. He, quote unquote, said, you got to pay for your shit. I'm not paying for your shit. This is very different from what is being here portrayed.
Moving up to north of 3.5%, overall EU NATO now at 2%, and we need to do more. We need to ramp up industry production. So on all of this, we need the US needs us. We are together in NATO, all for one, one for all.
Good point.
Then on Ukraine, it is only the Ukrainian government which can decide to start talks with Russia on how to end this. But they have to do this from a position of strength, and that is why we need to continue to deliver.
So, as some of you, I think, said, I think Sierra was that in the beginning, that Biden is in the bubble. That is the bubble here. Rutte is also in his wonderland. Dive into, guys, there is full departments working for NATO, representing him, doing research. Dive into our elections. Listen to what he says, not just what he tells you on the phone when you call him to congratulate him.
Defense aid into Ukraine to make sure that they will be in that position of strength when that day comes at their decision. And we have made clear in NATO that their future will be in NATO. That is a decision we repeated again at the NATO summit in Washington. The irreversible path towards NATO membership for Ukraine. And we are building the bridge by the $40 billion pledge, by the command we are setting up in Wiesbaden, by all the bilateral security agreements many allies have now made bilaterally with Ukraine. This is building the bridge towards future NATO membership for Ukraine.
Let me just also...
First of all, apologies for Economist. That's my only notification. Anyway, I'm recording screen here because it's very early in the morning. Now, listen to Latvia's president. He is less delusional, and he tells you as is. He's being polite still, but he tells, I mean, you can sense that he has a different opinion.
So to answer both questions, first of all, the United States has been, is, and I'm completely sure is going to be indispensable partner for Europe, indispensable for European security. But I think that it is very clear that we all need to step up when it comes to our defense and security. We all need, as Secretary General just said, not only to step up defense spending, but also to mobilize military industry, defense industry, and do many things. Also to be prepared for all kinds of hybrid challenges that all of our countries have been facing, are facing, and I'm quite sure will face. So from that point of view, I very much agree with Mark on the description that the United States are integral part of NATO. And indeed, we do hope that the US presence is going also to continue in this part of Europe and in Europe in general. On Ukraine, just a couple of points. We have invited both Ukraine and Georgia to be a candidate countries back in 2008 at the Bucharest summit. They are candidates. Already 16 years we have seen quite challenging developments.
Pause here. Challenging developments. Ukraine invaded in 2014, Crimea taking away, full-blown invasion. Next, right now, third year fighting. Georgia, the country, not the peach state, God forbid, is very much controlled by Russia. The Russian Dream, Georgia Dream Party, which is like Putin's people, won the election. So they're not going towards EU, they're going towards Russia. Those are the developments.
Both in Georgia and in Ukraine. And I do believe that to some extent, some kind of unclarity that unfortunately we have seen on the part of alliance also was the part of problem that we are now seeing in Europe when we see the war in Ukraine. Number two, I do believe that we need to have comprehensive plan for Ukraine, and we still have speculations about what the incoming US administration's plan for Ukraine would be. I would frankly wait and of course be happy to discuss those issues with the incoming administration, what the exact plan there is. But let's face it, at this point we also see that Russia is not willing to sit at the table. Russia actually is stepping up military operations and activities, and whenever we want to have any kind of political process, you have both. Ukraine, you can't agree on peace plan without Ukraine, but also Russia must sit at the table and Russia must be willing to negotiate.
That's where Trump's plan is not a plan, it's complete capitulation of Ukraine. because Russia is upping up their resources. So I'm trying to say, there's a very popular reporter and a journalist who interviews, Boris Johnson, all that kind of stuff, who said, oh, Kursk area, they're going to exchange it to Kharkiv area, and Trump comes in and he will do everything so well, and we're all going to wear MAGA hats. And I said, reality. Okay, Kursk region, 58,000 soldiers are there. 10 to 20,000 from them are North Korean soldiers. Iran agreement, military agreement, cooperation between Iran and Russia is being signed. So before New Year, so more people will be coming. You will freeze Ukraine, which will just stop the aid from the US, because in our agreement, no fight, no aid. You freeze it. And that's why they're trying to do it now, because Biden said, I'm going to send all the money to Ukraine before I leave. They want to freeze the conflict now, so Ukraine will not be getting that money and that aid. By money, I mean aid. So he's so right. If you want to negotiate, you talk about Ukraine will give up this, give up that. Who promises that, first, Russia will sit down and be willing to negotiate? And second, that a minute later, once Ukraine signed off its future, that they're not going to invade Ukraine when they lay down the equipment and the fight, pretty much. Very nice that he says that. I'm liking this little country. And to your point, I have a map. Listen, I always say, I wish I had a map. I have a map. This is the NATO map. Okay, so zoom in if you, like me, have blind. Anyway, so you see the big gray is Russia, right? And then I downloaded without the names. Oh, that's sad. Anyway, so you see Ukraine. Above Ukraine, you see that's the gray one. That's Belarus. And then above Belarus is Latvia. So Latvia, bottom line is, how do I show it? Here. Yeah, that level. See my finger, that level? The blue one on that level, tiny one. That's Latvia. So Latvia shares a border with Russia. That's why it's not shits and giggles and, let's hope Trump comes in and does this and does that. No, Rutte is from Netherlands. Netherlands is on the further west. Anyway, I'll show you next time with names. Why it has no names? Anyway, so it has nothing to do with Netherlands. And that's why Rutte said, we all act like we're border states. It's nice to say, but Latvia is literally bordering Russia. So for them, if they say there is no indication that Russia is stopping, Russia is only becoming stronger. You freeze conflict with Ukraine, they either take over Ukraine, use all the trained soldiers and the equipment that by that time they have gotten from NATO, and then use Ukraine as a hub to invade further, to go to Latvia and Lithuania and all that kind of stuff. So no time for kicks and giggles. Trump is not asking nor expecting negotiations, capitulation. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, Baltic states don't want back in the USSR. They will resist. Indeed. And then, why would Russia stop? They won't. They won't. Yeah, that's why it's not the time to be lovey-dovey. And I'm not saying Rutte or anybody has to come up and say, F Trump, whatever. But let's be realistic. I like how the Latvia president said that. And that's why I decided to show you that video. Because what's the relation between you and Latvia and your interest? But anyway, it's important because how he phrased it, let's wait and see. It would be nice, but this is speculation. So in India, I shared it yesterday. It's such a weird thing. Did you know that in India, if somebody is somebody is accused of crime, the government bulldozers their house. So the country's Supreme Court ruled that government authorities cannot demolish the property of individuals accused of a crime without providing judicial due process. In recent years, several state governments have engaged in what has been called bulldozer justice. So you can just clean out the whole area of people who are probably poor people, and you just write that they are accused of something, so you can just demolish the housing and just build something new. It's everywhere. Okay, in terms of Israel, so I told you that exactly 31 days ago. Blinken has written a letter for Israel saying that if you don't stop blocking aid for Gaza, then we will stop supplying you with arms. 30 days have passed. Gaza blockage is not lifted, but they see developments. And U.S. says, well, you know, the 30 days, it wasn't about the 30 days. It was about like indicating and just raising that as a topic. So blah, 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 blah. Nothing happened. Anyway, now U.S. contractor found liable for Abu Ghraib torture and is ordered to pay $42 million in damages. So U.S. jury has held government contractor CACI International liable for torture committed at the detention center near Baghdad during 2003-2004, ordering the company to pay $42 million in damages. This marks the first time a civilian contractor has been held legally responsible for abuses at the notorious facility. Why does it matter? Because it creates a case that other commercial organizations that are in Gaza can be falling into, like under this type of ruling. Now, diplomacy aimed at securing a ceasefire in Lebanon, so the northern border between Israel and Lebanon, that diplomacy showed tentative signs of progress on Thursday. Meanwhile, Israel is pounding its northern neighbor, including heavy airstrikes on the stronghold of armed group Hezbollah near Beirut. So third day in a row, I'm not saying they're not supposed to, but third day in a row, they're bombing Lebanon near Beirut. And meanwhile, there's sort of like negotiation of peace thing. So kind of like doesn't really correspond with each other. In terms of Iran, Rafael Grossi, who is the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, that's the one that oversees all the nuclear sites pretty much, visited Tehran to address ongoing concerns about Iran's nuclear activities. During a press conference following his talks, Grossi urged Tehran to take action on unresolved issues related to its nuclear program. This visit comes ahead of critical discussions next week, where the remaining parties to the 2015 nuclear deal, known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, will consider imposing increased penalties on Iran due to its lack of cooperation with international inspections. So that's the so-called JCPOA Act. Iran's foreign minister responded, stating that Tehran was open to negotiations with European countries, but made it clear that it will not engage in those under pressure. So, I'm almost done. So, in Germany, the politicians set the timeline. Remember, their government collapsed. So the timeline is on December 16th. They will be having this confidence vote, meaning are they confident in their coalition, which they're not. And then instead of having elections in September, around September 24th, 25th of 2025, they will be holding them on February 23rd. So again, third, like the majority there is a fascist party, which will be part of coalition, looks like, already in February. So with all of it together, yeah, from Russia with love. Now, Germany, what Scholz did, which is kind of good, the government has instructed a state-operated gas import terminal to reject any incoming shipments of Russian liquefied natural gas, the LNG. This was reported by Financial Times. The move underscores Germany's ongoing efforts to reduce its reliance on Russian energy. So, for what it's worth, now they're not going to accept any trade. And then in England, it's very interesting. So, you know how you can buy arms, unregistered arms online? So England is now not just opening criminal cases against the sellers on the platforms, but against the tech tycoons, like tech industry and those who own the platforms. So if you're buying something on eBay, they will be now suing and opening criminal cases against eBay. So I'm just making it up. Like, I'm just, it's an example, right? I'm not saying that eBay sells anything so of this kind, but just to understand. So they will be targeting the tech companies that facilitate the place where something can be sold, which is very different. And Lisa, I agree, that's brilliant, because that's where the money is. That's where it's going to hurt for them. And that's where, this, you go like against or behind the big guy, so that will hurt them. Now, CIA official arrested for leaking intelligence on Israeli-Iran strike. Remember when this was leaked, how Israel were to strike Iran? This guy was prosecuted. Asif William Rahman was arrested in Cambodia on November 12th in connection with leak of classified intelligence recording Israeli plans to strike Iran. He put it on X and Telegram. Didn't share much more. It was a targeted, he wanted exactly this part to be out. Now, authorities are investigating the motives behind Rahman's actions, although they remain unclear. Now, his arrest follows the recent conviction of Jack Teixeira, a former Air National Guardsman, for a similar leak of classified documents, and I reported on it. He's currently 17. He goes to jail for 15 years, followed by 3 years of type of probation. Now, if he were to sell those things from his shitter and Mar-a-Lago, then it's a different thing, I guess. Now, U.S. is officially concerned, which Ruta just mentioned that Russia does pay to North Korea for the troops, for the military, for the military support. And I'm freezing again. I don't see myself freezing. No, hitting anyone in their pocketbook is where you get the most change, not because it's the nice, right, moral thing to do. Exactly. Yeah. Brandon, we can restart. We're not freezing. We're good. Okay. So, and Lisa says that legally, what Britain is doing, that is what is most effective. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the expert opinion. All right. So, what Ruta mentioned, Iran is supplying Russia with missiles, with long-range, short-range missiles, and of course, soldiers. What Russia is doing is sharing their technology, right? And so US is now issuing a statement that we are officially concerned about it. What's going to be done about it? That's another question. And that's sort of, where it ends. While there's no definitive evidence of nuclear technology transfers from Russia to North Korea, Jenkins emphasized concerns about the broader implications of the two countries' increasing cooperation, including military assistance. This includes North Korea's reported involvement in supporting Russia's defense. Now, they say there is no definitive anything, but they also say they don't know if those 10,000 soldiers, which by now already more, are officially engaged in combat. We saw the video of the one guy out of 40 who survived that combat, talking in North Korean or in Korean and talking about it, So let's hope they're right. All right. And so I wanted to finish. This is a long, right? Almost 2 hours. Thank you for sticking with me. It was 2 days worth of everything. Now I have 3 cute videos to finish with. Not just cute. It's interesting. It's very good. It's for the soul. So first one that I want to show you, and this with this in mind, how ungrateful are people who voted against Harris and against this administration, forgetting how good we're having. And so that feeling of gratitude, this is not just what is common for people and among humans, or is missing currently, but it's very much applicable to animals. Now, think about bears, right? White bears. Do you think they can have gratitude? Take a look at this guy who was We're going to be that bear when our Medicare is back. When somebody comes in and restores Medicare in 4 years, we're also going to be like, hey, you know. Okay, jokes aside. Look at this lady. This is fascinating. And I'm doing this so we can forget the news and go to bed calmly. Look at the lady. She's painting not just with 2 hands or feet, with everything. Just fascinating. Take a look. Lisa says, I will never be that productive. For me, I don't know how she concentrates on 4 things at the same time and draws. Like, it looks fascinating. Amazing. The talent she has. Oh my God. It's that, yeah, but the bear was Titanic music. Yeah. Jay says, go, go, go. Yay! Cause damage. I get that was the politics related. Okay, so last video. I don't know whether you like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett or not. I have no positive whatnot. But anyway, my point is, let's listen to what they're talking about. And Warren Buffett, or better said, Bill Gates talks about Warren Buffett and his take on time, right? As almost greedy as Warren Buffett is, who goes to McDonald's each morning and he lays out like 130 or 150, whatever he explains. Like if the market is doing good, he eats like whatever, like a breakfast thing with an egg. If the market is not good that morning, he eats it without the egg. Like it's crazy. But what is the most important factor or most important asset in his life? And this is time. Now listen why.
I also remember Warren showing me his calendar, and
I love this.
you know, I had every minute packed, and I thought that was the only way you could do things. And you know, the fact that he is so careful about his
Can I show this to the audience? Yeah. This,
you know, he has days
that there's nothing on.
That there's nothing on.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm trying to show.
The best one.
And
well, this is October.
It's very high tech. Be careful. No, you might not understand.
I'm going to hold. I'm not going to show the thing. But this is the week of April, of which there are only 3 entries for a week.
Yeah, there'll be 4 maybe by April.
File tax.
So that taught you what? Not to crowd yourself too much and give yourself time to read and think and
right. That you control your time, and that sitting and thinking may be a much higher priority than a normal CEO who, you know, there's all this demand and you feel like you need to go and see all these people. It's not a proxy of your seriousness that you filled every minute in your schedule.
And people are going to want your time.
Yeah,
and it's the only thing you can't buy. I mean, I can buy anything I want, basically, but I can't buy time.
And so to have time is the most precious thing you can have.
I better be careful with it. Yeah. There's no way I will be able to buy more time.
And on this note, thank you for spending your time with me. And I'm sharing this just for us to have just a clear understanding as to what we're devoting our time to. Yesterday, I was completely overwhelmed. I'm reading all these announcements. I'm making all these scenarios. I'm like, oh my God, what is this? This guy will be deported. This lady will be this. And I'm going crazy, you know, physically like vomiting and all that. And then I'm thinking, what am I doing? These people are not appointed yet. Good chance they will be. Okay, they will be. We deal with it. So let's be wise in this day and age here, in this entire environment. Let's be very wise as how we spend time. Let's spend time with loved ones. Do what makes you feel better. Don't hurt anybody, but spend your time wisely. And, you know, consume actual news. Don't let anybody, if you feel like you're tuning into something and it makes you anxious and you are being programmed, you're not being informed, you're getting programmed for something. Just be very clear, very, very clear, because we're embarking on this thing where we have misinformation, not just from mainstream media, but from the entities itself, right? The times where I could just copy paste the thing from the White House will end on January 20th. I will have to double read it and prove it and fact check it. Same for State Department, same for everything, which is completely new. It takes twice as much time and effort to report on the news. But okay, we know what's coming. We have the time to physically and mentally prepare. So don't don't harm yourself in terms of diving into all this shit show. No, it's a shit show. It's boring. Change the channel or switch it off. Watch a movie. Okay? That's just my thought of the day. Get on the list. The app and all the announcements are coming only to our subscribers, honest.substack.com, because we need to protect and be away from the haters and the trolls. Okay? Ain't nobody got time for trolls. All right, guys, we're done. It's overwhelming. Yes, Jack, I feel it. Yeah, we can't wait, but we also can't freak out about what hasn't happened yet. It's coming, don't get wrong, but his nominees are just nominees at this point. Yes, Lisa, exactly. Yep, Trump cabinet is falling apart. It's not even January 20th. Exactly, right? Because the egos can just slash against each other. There'll be tsunami against tsunami. Thank you, Jack. Thank you. Okay, guys, have a good night. We see each other tomorrow, and we'll take it from there, one step at a time. Have a good night. Thank you for supporting and being here.